Hi, I'm Brent Feldman, and I'm the host of Mix and Matchbox here with Zach Parcel today, owner at Powergrip USA. Hi, Zach. How's it going?
Howdy. Oh man, yeah, I'm doing fine. It's great to be here.
Yeah, definitely. Great to have you on the podcast. I'll jump right into the questions. I will say that you took a leap to go from multiple different marketing positions, sort of inside of a university to then owning and operating your own retail e-com store. Pretty big, sort of leap or difference there. But what was the main thing that motivated you to kind of get out of the one and jump into the other?
You know, it's one of those things that, at least in the back of my mind, it's been something that I've been thinking about for a while. Being able to be your own boss, and being able to, call your own shots and create your own path has been something that people around me have been encouraging me to do for a while. And it's a little scary. It's a little frightening at times. It's very real. But I think it was one of those things that the timing was right. And my kids are getting older. They're 7 and 4 now, and doing something that allows me to have a little bit more freedom. And while there's extra stress and pressure and all that comes along with it, but it's I don't want to say YOLO, but it's one of those things of like I'm now 38 years old. I'm not going to get any younger, and I'm not old, right? Like, this is still a very prime time to get a lot of life accomplished and to do a bunch of stuff. So it was the time. And plus, I love a challenge. I love building something from scratch or from nothing, and seeing what it can grow into. I love that game. It's a horrible game to play, but I love that game.
That's cool. I love the idea of you screaming YOLO as you jump into this new adventure.
It was at some point, I'm sure that I was doing that. It's man, you just have to go for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So like I guess now your own retail e-commerce store is related to disc golf, and disc golf has grown in popularity a lot over time. And and you see the same sort of thing and I don't mean to make a comparison here because it's definitely like, wow, probably two different audiences completely. But in pickleball, because like, wow, just like explosive kind of growth, and like
Sure.
people that are
Yeah.
interested in facilities and and the growth of the sport in general, and everybody's like, oh, it's going to make it to the Olympics and all that sort of stuff. So what do you think makes a niche sport grow, and why are the fans so passionate?
And that is an interesting side of any kind of little niche sport like this. So yeah, so Powergrip USA is a disc golf shop, or frisbee golf shop. People call it that, but frisbee is a actual registered trademark. So it's disc golf. That's what most people go with. So I've been involved with disc golf since 2011. I started my own website. I started to play. I've played casually in high school and stuff like that, but I wanted to build my own brand, and I did at the time. I started All Things Disc Golf, and it was a very fun blog. It was when blogging was still a thing. Everyone's like, "Why didn't you do YouTube?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't want to do it. Sorry." And I'm better I'm a better writer than I am anything on video. So let's just stick with that. So I've been involved since 2011. And even then, it was one of the fastest growing sports. And it was a very niche sport, and it had a very cult-like following, and it was growing year over year over year. And I actually think your comparison to pickleball is actually very accurate. I mean, there's a lot of, strange phrase, professional disc golfers that play pickleball on the side. It keeps them active. It does all of that. And I think one of the things is it's easy for people to get started. And if you look back just a few years, when the pandemic started, the industry doubled nearly overnight. And the industry never saw anything like this. I mean, it was growing, and then it was at the point that store shelves were bare. There was nothing there. And it was cheap to start to play. You could go outside. You could socially distance. You could play by yourself if you really wanted to. It gets you active. And so it was one of those things that it kind of hit all the marks at the right time for people. Of instead of being stuck at home and I still want to go do something, I don't really want to spend money. Some people maybe had a little extra money to spend at the time, so let's go try something new. And disc golf boomed. It became an enormous thing. I think another reason why people enjoy these little niche sports. I love baseball. I love soccer. I've grown up, I played football, that kind of stuff. I'm not an athlete at that level, and I never will be. And most people will never be. Like, there's what's the stat of like the smallest Major League Baseball stadium is in Cleveland, and if you put everyone that has ever played in Major League Baseball in that stadium, it's only like 60 or 80% full or something. Like, it's not that many. Like, it's not that many professional baseball players have made the Major League Baseball. There's a way more disc golfers. And I think when you get into something like that, they can feel like they're doing something, that they can compete. The basket's 300 feet away and I can throw the disc and I can park it right next to the basket and tap it in for two, just like the guy who is a professional doing the same thing. Like, it's a very easy to adopt kind of sport. And I think it's that feeling of, I can be active, I can still accomplish something, I can do something. And then you can just keep doing it and keep getting better and keep getting better.
Yeah, that's really neat. That's awesome. I never thought about it that way, but yeah, wow. And when you put it in perspective, like, inside of a baseball stadium, the amount of like professional players that have ever existed, I'm like, yeah, you're right. Because like, even if you take, all the teams and everything, like, yeah, that's still not that many people.
So further perspective, we're good friends with a company called UDisc, just the letter U and then disc. They do a great disc golf app and keep score and all that kind of stuff. They put out an annual report and to show like the state of the disc golf industry. And my favorite stat, there are more disc golf courses than there are Dunkin' Donuts in the United States.
Wow.
Okay, now see here, you think there's a lot of Dunkin' Donuts, especially out in like the Northeast, that there's a lot of Dunkin' Donuts, but there are more disc golf courses in the US than there are Dunkin' Donuts. And I think like that's to put into perspective of how this has grown and communities are getting this. And so it is a niche sport. I think pickleball is the fun. You can play that indoors a lot easier too. Like that's a huge growth opportunity there for them. But they're very much in parallel.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. So like the other locations though for your company are
Right.
actually in Finland, which I find that fascinating too. Do you see, like a big difference in approach or philosophy in terms of like, selling, management, franchising by working with a company that is actually theoretically out of Finland versus like, you're like, oh, I'm USA. And then there's a whole bunch of other stores here. I
Right.
mean, like, maybe not having an exact juxtaposition of another experience like that, but like, what do you find is like the cultural, sort of like benefits, differences about all those kind of things?
Right. So we've been in Finland for 15 years. We have 5 retail stores throughout Finland. And why Finland? Let's address that first. About 80% of the disc golf market is in the United States. 20% of it is in Europe. I'm fudging numbers a little bit there. Of course, it's in other countries. But let's just make a simple math argument here. I'm not going to give you a math lesson here today. And within the European disc golf industry, Finland is by far the more dominant country. So we can maintain 5 stores and an online store, and we've learned a lot. And it is very different to where in Finland, over 15 years, we are a very big fish in a very small pond. And we have a very established following. And if you're a disc golfer in Finland, you know Powergrip. There is no doubt about that. So why did we want to expand to the US? Well, this is the bigger market. This is where the opportunity lies. And that's what we're doing here. Now, we're a small fish in a very big pond right now. Now, the cool part is if you physically walk into one of our stores in Finland and then physically walk into our store here in the US, it looks very, very similar. It's set up the same. It's built the same. We use IKEA cabinets for our main like islands and everything. And there's a custom built top that we do. We actually flew the guy in from Finland to help build the store. It looks just the same. And we have had customers who have shopped us in Finland also shop us here in the US. And they said, like, yeah, this is Powergrip. This is exactly what it is.
That's cool.
So we're the big dogs there, you know. And I mean, while we do marketing in Finland, it's a different type of marketing than what we do here in the US. We have to do a lot of brand awareness. We have to make sure that here in the US, there's a ton of options for you, right? There's a ton of different stores that you can go shop for this. What's our competitive advantage? What is our edge? How can we stand out from the rest when these other guys are doing a great job? And there's some great stores. I mean, I'm not going to bash any of them. And it's where you have to adjust to the overall market trends too. We have a luxury of 15 years of data. We have a luxury of 15 years of business relationships with all of these different companies. So if you're just getting started right now, you don't know some of these folks. And we know guys that have known each other for 15, 20 years.
Mhm.
So we can look at sales trends in the US and sales trends in Finland and figure out what's working and what's not. Are there things that sell better in one market over the other? There absolutely is. And we can utilize those different pipelines to our advantage to try and build relationships. We can purchase in bigger quantities if we need to. We can leverage different things of like, hey, these, you know, here's an opportunity in the US that we want to do, and these guys know us now. We don't have to start from scratch in all of this. But I mean, I meet with those guys at 5:30 a.m. my time. It's like, you know, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon there, or whatever it is. And you know, I think another big aspect to it too, the management is just different. When in Finland, you have government provided healthcare, and it's a different standard of living, and things cost different, and all this kind of stuff. It's a little apples and oranges, right? Like there's certain things that we do here in the US that they would never think about doing in Finland. There's things that they do in Finland that we would never think about doing here. It's just kind of how it goes. But it is two different markets, but we have the luxury of being able to really learn from each other.
That's cool. Have you had any sort of cultural rubs at all, you know, with that sort of relationship, or is it, you know, been really natural and very easy?
You know, it's funny. So if you don't know Finland, and admittedly, most Americans do not know a lot about Finland. I don't know if most Americans could pick out Finland on a map. They know it's probably close to Sweden and Norway, but I don't know if they could name which one is actually which. And that's fine. We don't do a lot with Finland. They're just kind of up in the Nordic areas and doing their thing. Finland, Finns, this is my opinion. I don't think I'm speaking out of school here. They're a very stoic bunch. For those that are watching on video, a Finnish smile, it's this, you know, and it's like, there's a great video that Brent, I'll have to send you, where we were playing off the stereotypes of Finns just not showing emotion a lot. They're not a group of many, they're not a people of many words, right? They're very to the point. I've been told that I'm very Finnish. I've known some of these guys for now, you know, 10 years or whatever. And I love those guys, and they're some of my like best friends. And it's one of those things where I know the culture, I know how to work with them. They know Americans, they know kind of when we're like, hey, I'm really excited about this. And then I'll never forget it. We were just getting signed up. We were just getting the company formed. I said, guys, I'm really excited. And I was, and he goes, we don't look like it, but we are too. And it's just like, he had to say that because it's like, and they didn't look very exciting at that moment. So there is not really a big cultural difference. I think that what makes that work is the relationship. One of my main business partners, I've known him since 2013 or whatever it is. I mean, he's one of my closest friends, and we've known each other for so long. We know how to work together. And that's, I think, that personal relationship and getting to know people can help you in so many different areas, not just running a business, but just in life, you know. And I think it's having those people that I can talk to, that we can complain back and forth to each other, which is a very important thing to have. It's, you know, for me, as long as you give them a cup of coffee at the end of the day, or at the start of the day and throughout the day, they're going to be totally fine.
Cool. Note taken.
Yes. No, Finns love their coffee
at any time of day.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, but yes.
Well, I guess, you know, what are the things that, you're kind of continuing to learn as you grow this store? Because certainly the experiences are, very different between, like former position and this one. Like, are there things that you kind of like discover, weekly, monthly, yearly, that you're kind of continuing to
Yeah.
grow out of it?
The first thing, I'm not an accountant. I learned that very easily. I went to school to study radio, and I worked in radio for 4 years, and I did that because I didn't want to do accounting, and now I own a business, and now I'm doing accounting, and it's like, all right, well, shows you where where life may actually end up. It's one of those things that it's to kind of go back to that like challenge aspect to it, right? Like, I'm not an accountant. I've never taken an accounting class in my life. I don't need to. I know why you pay people to do that. But it's one of those things of I've enjoyed learning it, and I've enjoyed getting to know the ins and outs and what to, how to best file things and how to best note different things. And I think that's an aspect of just running a business, is that there's so much that you don't know.
Yeah.
And there's so much that you don't know that you don't know, right? Like, it's like there's a new thing every week. We're like, oh, I did not know that was a thing. Okay, I guess we're going to learn what this thing is. Like, we had to get custom boxes made, and the amount of phone calls that I made of like, I don't even know what I'm asking here. And it took a connection on a connection on a connection to finally get me in the right spot, because I was like going in the direction, and they're like, I see why you called me, but no, I'm not the guy. Go and call this person. I called them. Okay, I see why you called me, but no, go and call this person. And then we finally got to it, and we have a great relationship with a local printer that can, make us all these custom boxes. But it's that of like, I never ordered custom boxes in my life. Now I'm doing it by the thousands. It's okay, whatever. I think in terms of the unknown, that's one big aspect to it. You just have to know that there's the unknown happening at all times. The other thing, time moves faster than the world wants to operate.
Hmm.
But with the right planning, organization, support, you can do a lot. But just know that you're going to look up and go, oh my goodness, it's Wednesday. And you're going to go, oh man, I was supposed to get that done. Like, I know, because time is moving faster than what everything else wants to do. Or you need to get the quote from some other company, then they got delayed. It's like there's always a delay. Everything always takes a little bit longer. But when you know that going into it, you can then kind of plan for it, right? And I think that's been a huge learning curve of just, oh, that went a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, cool, that's a win. And then other times are like, yeah, that's going to be like next week now, guys, sorry, that's just what's going to happen. But
Yeah.
I think if you can get in sync to what you're working on and know that the pace of what those things are, you can accomplish a lot, and you can probably accomplish more than you think. But you just got to know what goes fast and what takes some time. And sometimes those are the inverse of each other. So I think those are the things. It's, you don't know what you don't know. There's going to be unknowns. If you can plan for it, it's fine. Everything can be solved,
Yeah.
and it's either going to take money or time or effort or something or all the above. But there's always a solution. It's sometimes you just got to kind of do it one step at a time.
Absolutely. Boy, if that isn't darn good advice just for anybody,
Right.
anywhere, of taking things in stride, because nobody may have the answer for everything. Sometimes, yeah, you don't expect
Right.
things to be a challenge that actually are. But actually, that's a really good segue into the next sort of question, because between the university position and Powergrip, you started the 168 system, which is based on the amount of hours in the week, and kind of like maximizing what you do with it. So why is it important to you that what other people do with their time?
I think it was one of those things that I worked with a lot of college students, and I worked with a lot of, like I said, I'm only 38. I'm still pretty young in my career itself, and I've been fortunate to work with a lot of great people. And the 168 system, I came up with that to where it's not about the grind or the hustle, right? It's being able to realize that you have more time than you think. Like it's one of those things of, oh, I see my to-do list and I see all of this, and a long to-do list full of 5-minute tasks can be intimidating. And then you look at it and you're like, these are all 5-minute tasks. I can get this done in 2 hours. And then there's that big thing on the list. Like, okay, well, you have the whole afternoon. Let's just go ahead and tackle it. So it's not just maximizing the use of their time. It's maximizing how you use your time. It's what makes you happy. It helps you reach your ultimate potential, and it scratches the itch for whatever you want to be curious about. It's living the life the way that you want to live it and not have other people dictate what that is. So it's it's accepting that everything takes time, right? Everything takes time. Can't get around that, but you have that time. And I did it around what got me was like I have a beard, right? I've had this beard for as long as I can remember. I have the beard because I hate shaving. Because I would have to shave every single day. I don't have that kind of time. Right. And it was one of those things that I still got to clean it up a little bit. Otherwise, I look, shaggy and like I'm a caveman, and I don't need that. Um, and I time myself one day shaving. It took me 10 minutes to trim the beard, shave, just kind of clean it up. And I'm like, I have been in my head about a 10-minute task. It took 10 minutes. You throw in a quick shower and you get dressed. 15, 20 minutes later, you're done.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 20 minutes. Cool. Now let's go do something, right? Instead of like, oh, I gotta shave. Oh, I need to do this. So what I ended up doing was just kind of splitting this up of like, not everything's gonna jive with everybody, right? I love technology. I love fancy pens. I love, stuff like that. Some people don't like that kind of stuff. So I broke it down into 5 areas. The first one is focus, your environment, your mindset, just your approach to things, not always being negative, knowing that you can dive into something for 20 minutes and I'm going to get it done. Okay, cool. You're able to focus on it. Energy. What gives you energy? What takes it away? That's mental and physical, right? If there's something that is dragging on you, like laundry, right? Everyone hates laundry. You still have to do it. But then you realize, like, it'll probably take me 5, maybe 10 minutes to actually start it. And then it just runs. I can go do something else. It's fine. But then at the end of the day, you have your clean laundry and you feel good about it. Okay, sweet. It's done. And you also accomplish something. You get that little, check the box kind of thing at the end of the day. I mentioned this before, but community is a huge thing. You can't do this alone. And I don't mean like you have to have like everyone helping you, but you need someone to talk to, someone just to, pitch an idea off of, someone to go on a walk with, whatever that may be. That may be a spouse, a partner, a friend, a kid, whatever it is. And asking for help is hard. It's super hard. But if you can get over that hurdle and just get that little bit of help, for me, accounting, right? I don't need that. I love my accountant. She's awesome, right? And it's one of those things of like, I know and I can trust her that she's going to take care of whatever I can't do. I could probably learn how to do it, but that drains my energy. I don't want to do that. So I'm happy to pay her. I'm happy to say, here, take care of it for me. Tools, technology is awesome. Task managers, second brains, knowledge bases, whatever you want to end up using, pen and paper. Your brain isn't enough. We're not wired as human beings to remember everything that we need to do. We're just not. So utilizing some sort of form, I carry like field notes in my back pocket sometimes and jot down little things. I have one in the car whenever I need to write something down because maybe can't be on my phone or something like that. Find a tool that works for you. And then finally, it's just health, physical and mental also apply here too. It's eating right, not a diet. It's those tacos from the place around the corner, like that everyone loves. That may make you feel really happy. So cool. Make that be a reward. Make that be a goal, whatever it is. Forget about the diet, right? It's like, again, YOLO. And here, maybe eat a salad later. Maybe don't, eat 4 tacos. Maybe just get 3 or whatever it is. But that makes you happy. And when you're happy, the people around you are then happy. And then you're able to do some more. You're not going to be on the couch slouch doing nothing, right? It's that kind of thing. So for me, it's not the hustle. It's not all of that kind of stuff. It's just being able to maximize your time and do what you want to do. If you want to go see a movie, if you want to sit on the couch and watch TV for a little bit, just to kind of, recharge at the end of the day, that makes you happy, do it. Now, just know, like, hey, I got to take care of this stuff first, and then I'm going to, then I can relax and have a little time for me. It's learning what drags you down, learning what gives you energy. It's once you figure some of that stuff out and you realize that you have time, you can live a much happier life.
Yeah. It sounds like it's like just a bunch of little steps. It's
It
not
is.
about these like momentous things, but it's like, like in aggregate, some things may seem a lot harder than they really are. But if you, kind of quantify like, yeah, how long did it take to shave or something? Or like, just do that little thing that either makes
Right.
you happy or you have to do, and dig into all of those things add up. And sometimes that's just really important for people to hear,
Oh, and it's not only do you have time in a week, you have 52 weeks in a year. It's like the whole New Year's resolutions and like I want to lose weight, and then like you maybe lost 2 pounds in January, and then you took a vacation in February, and then you put it right back on. Like, no, but if your goal was just to be healthier, you have all year to do that. Just change your mindset a little bit. So yes, it's one of those things of little things that you start to learn what's actually pretty easy, what takes more time than you think, what is maybe not worth it that you thought it was because you went and tried something. You're like, I don't need to do that again. That's totally fine. But you did something different. So yes, it's just baby steps.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. That's super helpful. Where do you think people's productivity drops off? Like what's the thing that will usually ruin it for people?
I think it's a lack of vision. And like, what's the big picture? Like, why are we doing this project? Why are we transferring to this new system? Why are we migrating to this other thing? Why am I going to the gym? Like, if you could go to the gym and sit on a bike and move your feet a little bit, and you go home and you're like, okay, you went to the gym. Congratulations. You didn't do anything. But
Yeah.
when you know like what you're working toward, whether it may be a number on a scale. For some people, that's a big deal. For other people, it's just a healthy lifestyle. Forget the scale. Don't even step on it. But then you can look in a mirror and you can see yourself like, oh, I look a little bit different, right? It's just that little thing. Or when someone says, have you lost weight? It's like, yeah, I have. Okay, cool. Right. Like not a lot, but like, okay, you maybe noticed that. It's one of those things of I think professionally, personally, whatever it is. If you don't have the bigger picture in mind, then why are you doing things? It's like what is the and then sometimes it's just like, here, I want to sit on the couch and watch TV. Why? I've had a long day and I had a busy day tomorrow. So I just want to chill for a little bit. That's fine. Do that. Because you're going to be burnt out tomorrow if you don't take a little time to recharge, right? It's understanding how everything kind of influences the other little things, but for me, it's the why. And I think when people start to lose the concept of what that why is and what the purpose of what we're doing is, then they're like, well, then if I just stop doing this, what's going to happen? Or, it's like when I start to lose interest in something or it's something that gets stuck. Sometimes you just got to call it what it is, man. A failure is a failure. It's okay to fail. It's okay to make a mistake. And then we ask why. Okay, let's figure out what happened and how we can maybe do it better. Or it's going to the gym and not losing weight. You may be putting on muscle. So it's like, don't always look at what the like number is. So I think it's just that, knowing what you're working toward, knowing what the goal is. So in running the business, we know that we want to become one of the best disc golf retailers in the entire country, and we think that we can do that. We're not going to do it overnight. We're not going to do it in a month. It's going to take time. And, we know that we're going to make some mistakes and we know that we're going to do some things right. And when we make a mistake, we're going to figure out what happened, what went wrong, and we're going to build up from that. If I have like, the staff that works for me and they're two great guys, if I can tell that they're not in sync with something, I'm like, okay, then I'm not laying out what that ultimate vision is, right? I'm not laying out what we're ultimately trying to do. And sometimes that payoff comes a long way down the road, and that's what also hurts, so then it's also, chunk it up a little bit, get to something there.
Yeah, yeah. But you got to take that step forward. You got to,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
And I love the idea of having your eye on kind of like, the bigger picture at the end of the day, as opposed to just, yeah, doing the thing because you kind of know that you should in the back of your mind. Like that's not
Right.
necessarily helpful. It's not that it's bad, but it's at the same time, if you have a bigger goal, bigger dream, a vision of some sort,
Sure.
that can always keep you motivated and keep you moving.
Yeah.
That's cool. Awesome. Well, I will this is kind of stepping a little bit back now. For over 10 years, I know that you were like really building your career around marketing at a university. And so after leaving, do you have any feelings about, what the gaps in communicating value in that type of education are? Like, where where do you think it's hard for universities now to say this is what we're providing, as the landscape of education has changed, as universities had to change throughout the pandemic? Like, where is that gap?
I think it kind of goes back to that big picture aspect, right? And knowing that the world's evolved a lot. The pandemic accelerated a lot of that in many places, both good and bad. And there's the question of, why should I spend, let's say, 4 years in an environment that is said to help me build skills for the future? And if you don't have a good answer to that, well, that's a little concerning, right? And I think that it's, for a lot of people, 4 years at a university is still the right choice. But for a lot of people, it's not. And there are people skills, learning how to communicate with any type of person, those that see right in line with you, those that don't, those that come from a different background. Just getting a chance to experience a diverse culture is something that I think a lot of universities can provide. And there's a huge benefit to that. And many have realized that it's not for them. And that's okay. There's many options out there, but I do believe you need to do something between the age of 18 and you're jumping into the professional world, because there is stuff that you don't know yet that you have to experience. And you and I were there once too, right? And sometimes you got to kind of learn the hard way. I think you're also seeing a generation that is very good at asking why. When I think we're of a similar age, we're pretty close, and it's when we grew up, it was like, yeah, you're going to go to college, right? Like, that was just almost implied that that's what you end up doing. It was military, or it was you're gonna go to college. And sure, some people went to trade schools and stuff like that, but it was very, very small. And I think now you're seeing people ask, because I think they're seeing their siblings or whatever it is around them struggle with student loan debt, and they're struggling trying to find a job and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's where it's, you need to communicate not only the benefit of what you're going to experience in the 4 years that you will be there, but how that translates to the real world, and how that helps you get ahead, how that helps you reach a different position, how that, that puts you ahead of others that maybe don't decide to do that. And I think if you're going to struggle to communicate that, you're going to have a hard time.
Oh man. Wow. So much stuff to unpack out of that. That's really good. And it's so interesting because, like, like, yes, this generation definitely is. I feel like they're asking why a lot harder, and it's different. The costs and the value of education has kind of changed in terms of, like, no longer is it like, oh, I'm going to go to college and I'll see what I want to do.
Right.
Having that kind of expendable, sort of like income in order to be like, yeah, I want to dabble in my future in this place that's costing me 25,000 plus easily a year, is a real expensive way to figure it out. And I think it's good that the generation now is asking that kind of question, taking those kind of, institutions to task on kind of like, yeah, what are you providing a value that I can't get somewhere else, or what is it that you're giving me that, that place isn't? And I feel like those are really, really important questions, especially as, like, that dollar amount, the ticket total is a lot higher. Yeah, but that's super important. And that value, it's funny. It's like, I feel like there's a lot of intrapersonal things, obviously, that happen through the college experience that are, like, extremely valuable. But wow, is that worth, X dollar amount now?
Right.
That's really hard to, to quantify. And then I was having a discussion with a friend the other day, and we were talking about, our own university, and, they were promoting, like, oh, we're good at everything. And you're like, okay, I know that, every university wants to be like, yeah, come in here for this major, this major, this major. And if you really hone in on, like, well, what are the things that your school is good at? Not that you won't take on those students, but, what do you really think that you offer of value to the, potential audiences that you're reaching out to? And I feel like that's a disconnect sometimes, that, they either don't want to ruffle feathers with other people in the institution that are obviously representing departments that they feel very, strongly about their own department. And you're like, but at the end of the day, you're good at certain things, as opposed to trying to be like, oh yeah, we want to take on, everybody from everywhere. We're great at everything. It's just not always the case. It's not the case for any darn company out there. And it's not the case for any educational institution. You can't be. I'm sorry, but that's it was just something that I was like, man, that was a real revelation of like, yeah, in my opinion, I agreed with that sentiment, because like universities have to have that kind of like hard internal look too about, yeah, what are we good at and why are we pitching to the audience? So, yeah. So anyway, sorry, that was my own venting.
No, I love it.
Yeah. But I guess for university marketing, what are some of the core tenets of what, need to be kind of like honed in for it to be successful? Is it messaging? Is it, the visuals of the campaign? Like, really like, are there things that you feel like you're like, oh, this is what universities need to do to be on track?
I think the first one is just you have to have a unified message, and it's that a message that can scale up and down and you can back it up. And like, I think you nailed it. It's the value proposition. It's why are you better than the one 30 miles away or 60 miles away or in the same town or anything like that. And it's, you cannot say, here's a challenge to anybody. Find me a university that says they have faculty that are not dedicated and the staff does not care about you. It doesn't exist. Every single university is going to say they have dedicated faculty and we have a staff that cares about you as an individual. It's every place. Okay, that's good. You should have that. But when everyone has that, that's not a value proposition, right? Like that's not going to hook me. And I think that if you can show people why you can make a difference in their life and how they can come out ahead, they actually take value away from it. Okay, now you're starting to get someplace. And you're seeing this generation now that's in high school and even a little bit, younger than that. They now have parents that maybe are still paying off student loan debt. So they're seeing, or just recently paid it off. And they're seeing the cost of living going up everywhere, and wages aren't necessarily matching that, and rent's going up everywhere. Now I'm going to take on all this debt and try to do something with it. Like, you got to tell me why that's a good decision. Why that's going. I mean, and again, when I was going to school, it was like, student loans. That's what we do. Like, okay. And now I think you're seeing a little bit people question that. Is that really what should be happening? The experiences that you get are great, but you can't recruit just on experiences. You have to show some sort of outcome. You have to show what it's going to be there for. Otherwise, it's there again, like we said, there's other things. So I think it's the unification and actually having a meaningful message.
Cool. Yeah. Wow, that's it. It's interesting as you kind of like, put it on par with like, the message thing. Cause like, there's like car companies out there that like, not in your right mind would you go like, buy your fancy Italian sports car, for a really high dollar amount and take on that kind of debt for something that seemingly gets you basically fun and excitement,
Right.
But people are able to take on that amount of debt to get them an education, which may be theoretically at the end of the day, no different than them getting one that's half or less of the cost. And I think that is where, yeah, like what is your differentiator?
I mean, if you think about it, luxury cars exist, right? Just like you were saying, BMW, the ultimate driving machine. You can do most day-to-day things that you can do in a BMW. Go to the grocery store, go get gas, go run to Target or whatever it is. You can do that in a BMW. You can also do that in a Honda Civic that was built in 1994. There's nothing different there, but yet it's a BMW.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it has that little that aspect to it. Now the dollar amount is there, but someone paid the premium because they wanted the BMW. And there's that stature of what people look at and what people say. So it is that prestige is there. It's definitely a thing when there are cars that cost $9,000 or whatever it is. You get a used car for a few grand. Well, at least you used to, but I don't know if used car prices ever came back down. But you can also spend $100,000 on a car easily. And it's that idea of people have choices, but yet someone still went with the expensive option. So if I'm going to go to college, why is that better for me? And and at some point, prestige isn't always the thing, and some schools can say that, right? I have an MBA from X or Y. That sometimes matters. And that's how they can recruit. That's why you do that. But when you don't have that, then what is it?
Yep. These colleges colleges and universities, they got something to think about after this.
Oh boy.
I know. What are we starting? I guess, what would you say, are the things that have to be figured out internally before a marketing team can be successful? And I know that, some of this is like a little bit of building, but I'm kind of more even wondering from a cultural standpoint of like, this may be, working out not only just the messaging, what is that outward facing things, but what are the things that you feel like maybe even missing internally from, college or university marketing teams in order for them to have the cohesion in place in order for them to be successful?
I think the first thing is understanding that the world moves faster than higher education wants to. And there's always the new trends, the new job market, the new like here, cybersecurity was always a big thing, right? A handful of years ago, that was not an industry to begin with. And now there's many companies that cybersecurity is one of their most important things. And having people on the inside basically hacking your own system saves you a lot of money from when you were going to get hacked, right? It's that whole idea, like that's a whole industry, but that takes time to build up a whole program to dig into an emerging industry and anywhere. It takes time. So understand that you have to try to be as cutting edge as you possibly can and trying to be nimble where you can be nimble, because at some point something's going to happen and you have to pivot. You have to jump on some opportunity. I think the other thing is too, I've said this for a while. I know some people have disagreed with me. Most universities are not run like a business. And know that you are kind of a business at the end of the day, whether it's public or private or whatever. I mean, private you are, but it's you have to know where the market is and what does the market say? Where are the opportunities? What does it cost to recruit a student, and to get them all the way through? It's all of those kind of things. I think that you also saw how online learning, it was a thing before the pandemic. There's a few universities that many people probably know about that built their entire business on an online platform. Cool, that's great. But it showed everyone that it may be an option for them when people did not think that they wanted to do that. For some people, it is not. They want to be in the classroom, the in-person experience, and I can totally understand that. But if you can adopt to online learning, well, now you can open up a whole pathway for different folks, and you get a little more flexibility and stuff like that. There used to be MBA programs that were just at night. You go in for some evening classes and you get your MBA that way. Well, now you can do them online at some places. Great. Now I have even more flexibility, right? And that's an appeal to me. I think it's one of those things that in the history of marketing has always existed. And I think it can apply here too. It's the 80-20 rule. Brand awareness is still a thing, right? Like you still have to have brand awareness campaigns, unless you're one of the very, very few schools that doesn't, right? They can just show up at the party and everyone knows exactly who they are. But it's that stick with the traditional aspects of marketing. And I think that even some, mailers still work. I'm not anti-mail, but it's also don't forget the internet. Don't forget what you can do with a bunch of retargeting and a bunch of, most universities now have some kind of CRM where they're keeping all of their prospective students in. And that's half the battle. Once you get them in your system, well, now you have them. Now you can email everybody. You can send them something. Like that's a marketer's dream. Like I don't have to go fish every day. I actually have people sitting right here in front of me. But it's that 20% aspect of try some different things. Try something new. Some of it won't work. Again, reflect as to why. Some of it will. And then you're going to go, okay, and you may surprise yourself, right? And I think it's what's your overall message? And then how can you do the smaller things to where you have to get niche at some point, but you have to make sure that you're hitting the right message with the right people. And you're going to be challenged on whatever that message is. So go deeper. It can't just be surface level, right? I mean, it's so easy to say it's like your future starts here. Okay. What does that mean? What do I do with that? Right. And but what if my future starts over there or over here or, wherever it is? So it's that I think that if you can shift your mindset a little bit to being you are a business that has a very cyclical, approach to it, and understand that the world's going to move faster than what you are capable of doing. If some new industry started up today, it'll be 3, 4, 5 years before you actually get a program out, right? Okay. But that's 3 or 4, 5 years. What can you do in the meantime? What can you do now to try to not get ahead of it, but at least stay in pace with it? And that's going to be hard for some folks. So, but it's that, breaking out the old things. I also think too, there's the team that I used to work with, we all were in our mid-20s at one point, or like late 20s when we were all working together. And then it was, into our early 30s. And then we all kind of realized at one point, we're like, I don't know what a 17-year-old does anymore. Right. Like I'm officially at that point where like, there's new systems. There's a whole new world. You gotta be a little curious. You gotta understand that maybe what worked 5 years ago, 2 years ago, this year may not work again. That's okay. So don't always rest on that always does well for us. But does it anymore? Like, have you actually looked at what the data says? You got to try some new stuff. You got to be a little innovative. You got to be willing to take a little bit of a risk, which I know most higher ed places are not very willing to take big risks, but sometimes you do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, gosh, it's critical. Boy, and actually the way you just phrased it, it's kind of intense to think about that they're always communicating with like, that younger generation that basically there is no parity at the university with, so that basically that's always going to be out of sync. So trying something, or, trying to make those leaps is critical because like, you're always you're never going to have somebody that age working for you because that's what you're actually inculcating the next generation to, there at the university. Yeah.
Right. And it's not only that, you're recruiting a 16 and a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
They don't know what they want to do, much less 6, 7 years from now is what you're selling them on. Hey, here's the vision of when you're going to graduate. Here's what we can do. That's 6 years down the road. That's tough. That's really tough.
Yeah, definitely not to deny how difficult that job is at all. Yeah. Well, last question here for you really is that, since you made this, big switch, big career transition in your life, you have any advice for people also thinking about it on the fence or, yeah.
I think it's, I don't, it's scary. I think that's the first thing, right? I think people are like, oh, it's so great. You can do all the odds. It is. And it is great. I love the benefits that come along with this. But it's also scary. And I think that if you can go into it knowing you're going to kind of scare yourself, then when you get scared, you're not shocked that you just scared yourself. I think if you have the right people around you and you have the right support around you, and you don't need a team, you don't need a whole group, you need maybe one person You need a cheerleader. You need someone in your corner to celebrate the wins, to console when you're maybe kind of struggling, to show some support every now and again. I've used this phrase before. You can do it alone, but you can't do it alone. Right? Like, you can be your own boss. You can
Yeah.
create other stuff, but you need those people around you to, if you were just in your office, in your apartment, in your house, whatever it is, by yourself all day, you're going to be driven nuts, right? There's going to be stuff where you need support from other people. You need to delegate some stuff. You need to just, bounce ideas off of people. You cannot do it completely alone. And I think it's, don't let the unknown scare you, right? Like, there is the known unknowns, and there's like the unknown unknowns. Cool. That's for everybody, right? Like, did everyone see the global pandemic starting? Did everyone know what that was going to do? No. We were all going through, that was a completely universal unknown. We had no clue what was going to be coming around next. Now, in your career or whatever it may be, I don't think you need to go through it blindly. I mean, like, it's, do you, I want to say do your research. It's almost especially with the pandemic. I don't want to get into that whole battle, but it's that, if you feel confident, that's your first hurdle. If you feel like you can do something, you probably can. Now, it may take you longer than you think. It may be harder than you think. It may take more money than you think. Whatever it is. But then there's also times when it's a lot cheaper than you realize. It's a lot easier than you realize. If you can just kind of roll with it, you'll be able to do it. But don't go about it alone. If you feel like you can do it, you probably can. But then now you got to do it. Once you say you're going to do it, now, like, I love this phrase. If you want to be your own boss, you can't forget that you're also your own boss. So you have to manage yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to manage the time. You have to make sure that the bills are paid. You have to make sure that, the contracts are signed, whatever it is. You have to do that. You're used to someone else doing that. If you ever worked for a big corporation or even a small one, someone was going to be there. But this is where I think it's, if you're going to be your own boss, don't forget that you're your own boss. And if you think you can do it, you probably can. But just know it's going to be tougher than you may think at times, and it's also going to be easier.
That's cool. Hopefully it's good motivation for anybody who has the
I would hope so.
Yeah. And it is fun. It's always challenging, but yeah, running a business, the joys and pain of it all.
Yes, it is.
But what would it be without that? It wouldn't be any fun if it was all winning.
Right.
Well, anyway, I really greatly appreciate you taking time to sort of give all your perspective and opinion on all these questions. Like super helpful, super informative. So
thank you for having me. And I think one last maybe closing thought is, you know what, you don't have to agree with me in what I'm saying. This is my experience. This is what I'm going to do. I think that's something of, if this sparks something in you, whether it's you agree with it or you disagree with it, great. That's, I think, the really cool part about this. And I've told a lot of folks that I don't have all the answers. And in fact, most people as individuals don't have all the answers. But together you can get pretty close. And I say it that way because even together, you still don't have all the answers. But if you can work together, if you can work towards something that's a unified thought, you can do a lot with it. But no, Brent, this was a fantastic conversation. I very much appreciate you asking me to be on, and this was a ton of fun.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Well, I appreciate anything you want to plug about Powergrip or anything.
Yeah, if you want to shop us online, powergripusa.com, or if you're in the Bloomington, Illinois area, that's where our retail store is. You can check us out online, powergripusa.com. The 168 system, I've not admittedly done a lot of updating there for a little bit, is focused on the other business, but that's just 168system.com. You can check it out there. And yeah, if you got questions, reach out to me.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Zach. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I am your host, Brent Feldman. This has been another episode of Mix and Matchbox. Please like and subscribe, and we'll be back soon with more content. Thanks.